welcome everybody. We are progressively filling the seats, but we will be starting smoothly, as we would like to give you some time to discuss among you, if necessary, perhaps to ask questions. So to reduce basically the speaking time of the Commission colleagues to the minimum, to allow you for any reflection or question you might have on the call text that we're going to present to you today. So welcome to this information day on developing the CitiVerse, which is a call hosted in the Digital Europe program of the European Union. We are the 23rd of May, 10 o'clock, and we will be recording this session for the purposes of information and capacity for other people who could not join today to still have access to the information. The agenda for today will be presented by my colleague, José Fernández Villacanas, who is the call coordinator. And then we will start very quickly with the presentation. Okay. Over to you, Pepe.
Can you see us in the video? Can we start the video, Maria? So that you get a picture of us below there. Yeah. Can you see us?
Yes.
Okay. Well, hello, my name is José Luis Fernández Villacañas, or you can call me Pepe, whatever you find the easiest. This is the agenda for today. We'll start, Cristina will give us an introduction of what the context and the purpose of this call is. Then I will introduce very briefly the topic presentation. We'll have a round of questions from the audience with answers. And then we'll give the floor to some of you that have expressed already an interest to either say, I've got this idea of the proposal, or I would like to introduce myself. This is what I can provide. This is what we are in need of, etc. And then we'll leave the rest of the time for you to network, okay, to make contacts and to exchange ideas. And at the end of the day, we'll try to close the meeting at 12. A few housekeeping rules. Please keep your cameras off and your microphones also off, unless you are speaking. If you have questions, write them in the chat box. We'll be recording the meeting. So the chat text will be recorded as well, and then we'll get a recording of your questions and your comments. Okay. If you have any objections, we've been recorded. Please do not show your real name in the WebEx with details, with pictures, with cameras or whatever. Okay. As I said before, we have 6 expressions of interest to speak, but of course, you can feel free to join spontaneously after the presentations from the Commission. Please don't be shy. Okay. And eventually the presentations, this presentation and the rest of your presentations, if you don't have any objections, will be shared in the same web page where you found the invitation, the news item. Okay, with this and without further ado, I will pass the word to Cristina Martinez, which will give you the context and the purpose of this call. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pepe. Indeed, this new concept called the CitiVerse, which has been coined for the first time this year in the context of a number of internal discussions, but also external conversations with experts in the field, have a very elusive concept that can take many shapes and will be hopefully driven by industry or by public sector or by a mix of the two, if properly steered. But it's certainly something that will build on an existing number of solutions and technologies that have been developed also in the context of the Digital Europe program for citizens, but also city dwellers and other stakeholders at the local level who need technology to serve a number of purposes. let me give you the proposed definition that was discussed in this context, and which we think could be helpful for you to understand what exactly is this concept about and what do we need in order to be, let's say, compliant with the goal expectations. So the CitiVerse is, in our view, a series of interconnected and distributed hybrid and virtual worlds representing and synchronized with their physical counterparts. This is very important. We're not talking here about a pure virtual world. We're talking here about an enhanced physical environment with digital assets. It offers new, i.e. administrative, economic, social policymaking, and/or cultural, virtual goods, services, capabilities to city and community actors, such as citizens represented as digital avatars. We would like to see this CitiVerse, a citizen-centric virtual world for EU cities and communities. And that means a digital universe that is based on the physical level, such as a city or a community visualized using certain technologies like digital twins, for instance, but enhancing the physical environments with metaverse-like technology, sensing technology, social web, augmented reality, virtual reality, etc., to allow citizens and other stakeholders to navigate and interact in their urban spaces from what we call basic default sensory experiences all the way to digital asset enhanced art, augmented reality overlays, which would be merging the physical and the virtual environments into what I would call a hybrid metropolis. The idea is to create a kind of steady and immersive environment for citizens, for businesses, also public authorities, that we call a CitiVerse. That could be used for virtual, real city planning, management, or navigation, while also enhancing the education, social, architectural, green, and cultural heritage dimension of cities. To complete this definition description, the idea is that we would like to have virtual environments that can enhance citizen participation in various contexts, depending on the use cases. It could be individual or collective, it could be observing or interacting. There is possibility to model group behavior in those services and use cases and strategies, or virtually test possible outcomes of policies. This is just to give you an idea. Why do we want this? Perhaps in one sentence, the point is that we don't want to lose in Europe the data platform. We want data platform market, sorry. What we want is to make sure that we can offer to our citizens and to our public authorities solutions and services that are built on European technology, mindful of European values, and compatible with European policy objectives. So we want to make sure that private infrastructure investments are compatible with this vision that we have of what are multiverses. We've seen also that current developments are showing risk of fragmented digital universes that are not compatible nor interoperable, instead of having a kind of single digital continent. We would like also to keep technological leadership in Europe. We know there is technological excellence in Europe, but we need to make sure that this industry fabric now aligns and develops solutions for our citizens. So we need data technologies, we need XR hardware and software solutions, we need blockchain technology, we need modeling solutions. So complexity needs to be mastered. Artificial intelligence can be used for many purposes. We need to support and increase citizen, let's say, well-being in cities and in those environments. We need to foster interdisciplinarity. So there's a lot of challenges to be addressed. And we think that these use cases could be a good context for developing those solutions. We also want to address standardization issues, anticipate them. Actually, we have already started the work through our contribution at ITU level to the focus group on the metaverse. And we're developing a roadmap on the CitiVerse, which will be listing all the vertical technologies, but also horizontal policy issues that need to be tackled in order to address them. We will be working on policy and law to make sure that our values are well reflected in those technologies, to support cities and communities to become, let's say, adapted to this digital era, and develop a position based on the lessons learned that will help us to build the necessary policy initiatives. The context is, as I said, that we're already working on a number of policy initiatives. There is now a discussion at member state level to set up a multi-country project on local digital twins, which might become in the longer term the basis, the foundation for a European CitiVerse. There is an internal high-level expert group working on policy innovation and looking at the CitiVerse as one of their case studies. And the ITU has launched a focus group on the metaverse, where we are leading on the collaboration task group and developing collectively a European roadmap towards a CitiVerse. We're also deploying a number of infrastructural solutions in this Digital Europe program, which are supporting the build-up of a data space for smart cities and communities, and will progressively help cities to adopt new solutions, AI solutions, but also digital twins that in the longer term could be federated at European level, so sharing a common interoperability layer in order to build a European CitiVerse. And finally, we're working hard on the standardization side. First, because we've been developing in the context of the Living EU community, what we call the minimum interoperability mechanism approach, which is a cost-efficient way to get interoperable solutions across Europe to give clarity and certainty to the market. And this approach is now being standardized at ITU level. And in the longer term, we hope that we will be able to offer a mapping of standards that are compatible with this MIM approach. Also, to finish, we're relying heavily on experts working at European level in standardization organizations like CEN, CENELEC, and ETSI, which have gathered around one common objective, which is to support smart cities and communities in the so-called Sector Forum on Smart Cities and Communities, where they're coordinating their work around local digital twins. And also, as I said before, reaching out to international fora, such as ISO, IEC, but also ITU, and also many other non-de jure, but still important standardization fora. So I think that with this, I'm closing the context description of this goal. And now let's dive into the most important part, which is what do we expect? Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Well, not the most important part, but at least the most concrete one. I'm going to try to give you a few snapshots of what this specific topic is about, and a few of the particularities that might help you get a good idea of what you need to prepare as proposals. Okay, the topic in the Digital World Program 2023 is called Developing CitiVerse, and what we mean is basically that we want to develop hybrid virtual worlds for citizens. This is very, very important. As objectives of this topic are concerned, there are three kinds of objectives. First of all, we need to define what we mean or what you will mean in the proposal by the EU CitiVerse. We need to expand the capabilities of existing urban digital twins. So this is very important. We are linking the concept of the EU CitiVerse to the urban or local digital twins. And then the third objective is to foster EU leadership in this topic, basically the topic of extended reality and also linked, of course, to local urban digital twins. As far as the definition of the EU CitiVerse, Christina has already said that we've been building through the digital program a number of actions on smart communities through the cycle of work programs for 21 until 24. The second definition, and this is very important here, is that we need to bring the industry, the extended reality industry, including SMEs, to develop the necessary technologies and services to create these virtual worlds for cities. Of course, we want these technologies or these services to be interoperable and open, because this would favor basically the scaling up and the use of the local digital twins toolbox, which we are calling in procurement. Okay, and this should be ready by the end of this year, by the end of the year 2023. The last thing that will be part of the definition is, of course, the synergies with a possible EDIC on local digital twins and any other relevant future initiatives. So this is what you need to take into account and address in your candidate proposal. Regarding the extending the capabilities of the already existing urban digital twins, we need to imbue the digital twins now with virtual reality, augmented reality, and in general, any kind of virtual world technology to navigate and interact in these urban or regional spaces. This, as Christina said, can range from a basic sensory experience, like you can imagine with Pokemon Go, with something like augmented reality, seeing the city, and on top of that, some augmentation of the reality, to something very, very sophisticated that could be, for instance, submitting citizens through extended reality, with your virtual reality glasses, to give feedback or to read automatically feedback on the execution, on the testing of policies regarding the cities. Okay. The data should be coming, obviously, from public and private sources, notably, and we would like to insist here on the use of the data sets generated by the European data spaces. And then an important element would be the visualization and interaction, as I said, with simulated scenarios, like, for instance, for policy testing. In the fostering of the EU leadership, we believe there are an ample spectrum of possibilities for EU industry, including, for instance, for industry working on virtual worlds and creative SMEs. And this leadership on the EU would contribute and benefit, for instance, from already existing associations like the Virtual Reality and Augmented Reality Industrial Coalition, amongst others. What is more concrete in terms of scope? Okay, here I'm going to give you, as I said, a few brush strokes. The first thing that your proposal needs to scope is that you need to provide some kind of extended reality technology or services. This is probably the most important message. Then these technologies, these services, you have to validate with a number of use cases. Could be one, or could be several, depending on the budget that you'll be asking. And these concrete use cases could be, for instance, city navigation and discovery, tourism, entertainment, commerce, services, and in general, all the pilot areas that we've been calling for in the data space for smart communities. We did a call for projects, for a single project, and this project will probably be ready to start calling for pilots in the month of September, in the month of October this year, okay? Then we need to start developing the CitiVerse for the citizens with the idea basically to offer the citizens, and this is also a very important part of the equation, the citizens. This is Center Virtual Worlds for Citizens, to offer the citizens better more participative environments, and more sustainable services that would enable the circular economy model in communities. Okay. Then another important issue is that we need to be very, very aware that we need to build security by design into these technologies and mixing them with local digital twins and plan for real life contexts. And we also need to activate a network EU industrial partners, including SMEs in the member states, with the virtual reality, augmented reality coalition, etc., 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 whichever way is possible. We also need to exploit, this is an added issue that would very much relate to the new European Bauhaus initiative. We need to exploit the long tradition of EU cultural and media content. We need to involve European content creators in the design and engaging in immersive environments. We, of course, need to build CitiVerse prototypes. We need to leverage the latest technology providers. And we need to propose recommendations. This is another thing that Christina was insisting on before, on a robust, open, and interoperable CitiVerse legal framework compatible with EU values and laws. Okay. What are the key actors? Of course, the new set of relevant actors that we are asking here is relevant industry. I hope that within the audience, we have quite a few representatives from the extended reality industry that may show an interest and may participate in these proposals. If not, you have to go away from this meeting and search for these people. Here, I have to mention that we have in the digital program this article 12.6 for this topic that does not allow for the participation of countries, of partners in countries that are controlled by non-EU countries. They can participate, but they need a guarantee with the approval of their relevant national authority. So please be very aware, try to choose European-based industry, and if not, you have to be prepared to ask them for guarantees. Also, we need to have, together with the industry, with the relevant industry, representatives from the EU public sector at local level, the people that will bring the local digital twins to be linked with these extra technologies from extended reality. And of course, we need academia, civil society, and citizens, for instance, through the citizen science. And then the consortium should include, this is something particularly relevant, should include signatories of the Living EU Declaration, and the consortium should also find synergies with initiatives like the European Bauhaus and beneficiaries of relevant EU missions in Horizon Europe, like the climate neutral cities. Okay? What are the deliverables from your proposal? Apart from the set of technologies, we want to validate this set of technologies with concrete use cases for the CitiVerse, with a focus on pilot areas of the data space for smart communities, like I said before, sustainable mobility, climate resilience, energy flows, etc. We need to build on existing EU data structure and interconnected digital twins, and these use cases should last to have some kind of significance. At least they should last for 12 months, as should involve private and public sectors from 3 eligible countries. But of course, you can choose if you want one use case or if you want to delve into more use cases. Okay. Your proposal would need also to prepare a roadmap. Okay, this roadmap would be able to expand in Europe using MIM compliant standards and EU technology solutions. And then it should also provide recommendations from a CitiVerse, for a CitiVerse platform that should be interoperable, open, and it should be developed according to EU values and the policy in European policy landscape. A type of action is a simple grant that covers 50% of the cost, so the rest of the 50% needs to be brought by the beneficiaries in whichever form you wish. The indicative budget, this is important, is 15 million euros, but it could be a single project or it could be several projects. We would like it to be a number of different projects to encourage healthy competition. And these projects could be, for instance, between 2 to 5 million euros, but this is an average figure. So please feel free to discuss in whichever proposal you propose to justify with a number of technologies developed, with a number of concrete use cases, the budget that you ask for. The call opened on the 11th of May, will close on the 26th of September. So we have somewhere in between. We'll give you a little bit more time in September to complete your proposals. And the projects should start around April 2024. Of course, this needs to be confirmed. The indicative duration of each of the projects will be 30 months, and this is relevant if you compare it with a minimum lasting 12 months for each of the use cases. So you can have like different use cases scaled or intercalated during the duration of the project. The only thing I can really fix my eyes on is this: please be careful with the Article 12.6. So you could think of either being selective in getting European industry or asking them to prepare already for the guarantees if they're controlled by a non-EU country. This ends my presentation of the topic. Now I would like to open the floor for questions regarding the context or regarding the specific topic conditions. So the floor is yours. Thank you. Please don't be shy.
Thank you, Pepe. I'm sure the participants have lots of questions. Probably some of them relate to the acronyms that we've been using, and I have to give you an apology by habit, but it is true that we may be using too many EU speak wording, so maybe we can spend a few more minutes to explain some of them. In the meantime, we've got one first question for you, Pepe. The question is the industry eligible for the same co-funding, i.e. 50%?
Yes, of course. Of course. All the beneficiaries have to fork out 50% of the funding. Okay? You can be creative, but you need to justify that each beneficiary brings 50% or pays for 50% of the costs. Yes, of course. For industry, it's probably easier.
We have another question regarding the information that we will put online. Are we going to share the slides?
Yes. Yes, of course. As soon as the meeting is finished, we'll update the news item where you got all the information with the recording of the meeting and the presentations.
Thank you. And we will also be adding a glossary at the request of the participants, explaining some of the definitions and some of the acronyms that we've been using in this presentation for the sake of clarity. We have another question regarding universities co-funding.
Yes, same thing here. It applies the rule of the 50%. Okay. In the past, I remember in the old days of the Framework 4 and Framework 5, universities also had to justify that they could cover some of the costs. It wasn't until, I believe, Horizon 2020, where universities got funded at 100%. Okay.
Yeah, and this is a deployment program which indeed presents different conditions, and that perhaps also sends a message that we want an important participation from industry. This is again to help the market to deploy real life solutions. We're not experimenting, we're not piloting. We want real projects based on live use cases. The next question in line is from Pilar Orero. Do you expect silo proposals, for example, focusing on communication, or proposals should be horizontal where all issues you mentioned are included?
Depends on what you mean by issues or by silos. If you're referring to a specific sector applications like mobility, like tourism or whatever, no, you can concentrate on one single area if you want. Or if you want to present a richer proposal, you can have a mixture of sectors. For instance, I can think of people's movement and traffic management, or pollution, or whatever. I mean, all these issues are connected, intrinsically connected. And if you eventually want to provide a testing scenarios through virtual reality, it would be nice that the use case includes all these factors together, because there are lots of interconnections. But of course, it can be as simple as you want, concentrating on one sector, or it can be as complicated as you want. Okay, and that's the budget, I suppose.
And yes, indeed, it is very hard to cover all the policy issues that we've mentioned in our introduction in one project, but it will be, of course, important and useful to the community to know what are the lessons learned and what are the challenges that have been, let's say, identified in the deployment of the solution. This is why we want this roadmap and other policy deliverables as part of the more classic type of technology deliverables. Pilar, if we have not responded to your question,
Yes.
please don't hesitate to raise your hand. You can also take the floor to clarify your question. So I'm continuing with the questions online. Patrick Bourdeau is asking for universities too. So I suppose, Patrick, you are reacting to the reimbursement rate for universities, I suppose. We have already covered this one. If not, please come back to us. From Tanya, thank you very much. Can Western Balkan economies participate in this program, and how? Conditions of participation for associate countries.
Oh, I'm not updated right now. Last time I looked, the associated countries that were that has signed an association agreement with the digital program were, of course, Norway, Liechtenstein, and Iceland. The rest of the countries are in the process of signing these association agreements. For instance, I think the Ukraine is well developed, but I don't have the latest information with me. So this is a question of contacting your NCP or your digital program representative at national level. Okay? You can find this information in your expert. If you register as an expert in the EU, there is a section of NCPs. Okay.
Thank you, Pepe. And we will be checking this out for you before the end of this call. We have another question regarding city partners. I'm not sure I understand the question, but I read, could city partners bring for their structural funding? Are the fundings compatible? I suspect what you're asking here is whether we can complement Digital Europe funding with structural funding to build the budget for such projects. The answer, Pepe?
Yes, of course. I mean, so much the better. If you can bring structural funds and you can justify that you devote that money to your project, of course, it's a very good idea. It's one of the ways to justify this 50%. And you'll be doing us a favor as well.
Thank you. The next question from Tejas Bagat or Tejas Bagat. What will be the funding rate for the SMEs?
Same thing, 50%.
Again, I think we need to remind the audience that this is a deployment program, that we look for ready to the market type of solutions. and therefore that this is an incentive to help you actually deploy solutions that are already available, not to develop or to innovate or to experiment. There will be, of course, a level of innovation and experimentation in the blending of different solutions and probably in the deployment of the project itself. But we want technology that is at a very high level of maturity here. Pepe, you want to complement?
Yes, you're perfectly right. Yeah.
From Nuria in IDC, the 50% coverage seems to fit with industry developing product solutions. What about service companies? Do you expect them to get engaged? It is almost impossible to cover a 50% investment. Again, here, what we want is to make sure that there is a value model behind your projects, that there is business behind, that there are opportunities for you to reach out to new markets, to find new customers, and to propose solutions that are ready for the market. So we're not going to support the development of solutions that don't have a long-term sustainability plan, in other words. And this is why the program is now being so strict in terms of reimbursement of cost. Pepe,
Yes.
want to?
Nothing to add. That's the way things are. I mean, there are no exceptions, so you have to be creative and inventive. Well, I wouldn't say inventive, but you have to justify through the use of in-kind resources or use of infrastructures or whatever, how you contribute with this 50%.
Thank you, Pepe. Then I'm moving to Dieter, no question. Patrick Bourdeau, it's a reaction, not a question, but if you have one, don't hesitate to formulate it. Tim Mittelstadt from Region Hanover. What is the application process? Are cities also allowed to participate, or only companies, or cities in cooperation with companies? Is it possible to discuss project ideas with you in advance to see whether they would be eligible for funding?
We used to do that in the past, but not anymore. We used to have a pre-proposal feedback service, but now what we advise you is to network with each other and to contact also your NCP. Okay, so unfortunately, we don't provide that service of pre-proposals anymore.
And maybe you want to address the question regarding cities' participation.
Yes, of course. I said in the relevant stakeholders that citizens associations can be part if they have a role to play, of course, in the proposal. Whichever beneficiary you choose to participate in the proposal has got to have a well-defined role and has got to be significant and relevant for the project. Okay. Of course, citizens, if there is I don't know, if there are some ethical considerations and there is an ethics association of citizens or whatever, of course they can participate, yeah. And of course, cities as well, town halls, regional associations or whatever.
Thank you. And perhaps here I could come back to one of our slides, which also says that city participating should be signatories of the Living in EU Declaration. Can you develop this?
Yes, they should include some participants of the Living in EU Declaration. Okay, but you can associate one or two, or even take the opportunity and register and sign up for the Living in EU Declaration. Mariana can put the link in the webpage in the chat. Please have a look. It's a set of values that all these cities and all these industries defend and agree with. So please consider signing up.
So for those who don't know what the Living in EU movement is, in a nutshell, it is a bottom-up movement by cities and communities in Europe who have agreed on going the digital transformation the EU way, which is based on a number of values and principles that they have listed in the so-called Living in EU Declaration, and which relate to elements such as working together to create interoperability, to use open standards, and to develop together a number of joint assets, which are all detailed in the living-in.eu website. And this collaborative approach is open to every city and or community, region, even member state in Europe who wants to sign it, gives some advantages because of the label to those who have signed the declaration, notably by giving them privileged access to a number of discussions, assets, elements, but also benefit from the call. And we are encouraging anybody in Europe who wants to be part of this program and who wants to develop a successful proposal to collaborate with cities and communities who are signing off. Why is that? It's simply because what we're supporting here is no vendor locking and solutions that are compatible with our policy objectives, as I said in my introduction. And therefore, I think the best way to be recognized as one of them, not only from the user perspective, but also as a solution provider, you can also support it through the website as a supporter. It just takes one click, actually, to be part of this community. So that's for the clarification. And now I can move to the next question. So all proposals must involve parties from at least 3 EU countries, asked Patrick Rebschlager.
Yes, 3 EU or associated countries, okay? But you don't have to have like an industry from one country or from each of the 3 countries and then a city or whatever from each of the 3 countries. You can have an industry from one country, a city from a different country or from 2 different countries. But the important thing is that the beneficiaries include represent 3 EU or associated countries to the digital program. And of course, in the proposal preparation phase, when you register, you have the latest annex with the latest information on the association agreements of the different non-European countries. Or, as I said, contact your NCP from the digital program or the program committee representative. In fact, that's the best thing to do, no? With this group of the digital decade reps, no?
I think I would rather go to the NCPs.
To the NCPs.
Yes, I think they're the first point of contact for anybody in Europe who wants to know more about this. In any case, you can also ask questions to us through the participants portal, and we will receive your question, answer the question, and publish the answer publicly on that same portal. Perhaps coming back also on the capacity to network, to reach out to participants or cities or supporters or industry that could be interested. We will offer you other opportunities. There will be other events, there will be conferences. And we also contemplate the idea of organizing a second information day where we'll be focusing on networking opportunities for you online. So please stay tuned. More information soon. Mm-hmm. The next question is from Stefano. Develop an open knowledge platform that provides service for different case studies is eligible. I suppose there is a question mark at the end.
It doesn't really deal with the objectives, with all the objectives of the call. So if I were an expert evaluator, I would say you have to provide some kind of new tech service involving extended reality, and then you have to associate a local digital twin. So as a beneficiary, as part of a larger proposal, it could be a good idea, but on its own, I don't think that it would fulfill the eligibility criteria. But then, of course, you have to interpret the call text, read it carefully, and argue that you are addressing most of the objectives of the call. I don't want to say here it's not eligible, okay?
Of course, there are many elements that make a good proposal, and one sentence will not give us a full understanding of what is your project idea. So please make sure that you carefully look at all the requirements of the call.
Yeah.
From SBC to everyone, hello from Sofia, Bulgaria. Hello, SBC. Is the creation of digital twins with some user-centric disaster simulation eligible as a project topic? If yes, where could we find technical requirements to implement the created digital twins to existing infrastructure?
Well, through Living in EU and through the technical subgroup of Living in EU. Please register in Living in EU and establish a conversation with the technical people that are already working on local digital twins. I can see that, for instance, in Pilsen, there were people doing disaster scenarios through local digital twins. So it's just a question of finding your way around, or we will advise you specifically to contact a number of people. But of course, yes, this is a very relevant use case, disaster evacuation of stadium or metro stations or whatever, yeah. And it can be done with extended reality, yeah.
There are also other ways of perhaps understanding this question. We have to do with how to make sure that any existing digital twin platform is or will be later compatible with other infrastructure assets that have been created in Europe, such as, for instance, the forthcoming Smart Cities data space in Europe. And so that goes beyond the Living in EU community. There are a number of projects running today which have public deliverables and which are open through their stakeholders forum, for instance, to anybody who is not part of those projects. So we insist very much on this because we want to have healthy competition in this call, and we want to have new ideas, new twins, new communities joining up and developing their own solutions with a level of compatibility, of course, but they do not necessarily need to embrace all the standards that are developed in other projects that are already funded by this program, provided that they have some level of interoperability and that they can start exchanging data and benefiting from all these existing solutions. From Maxime Chantillon. Good morning, Maxime. The question is, could you elaborate on the fact if there are any specific requirements on the source of the 50% co-funding, especially for research institutes and universities? Thank you.
Well, I think there is very little to add. I mean, the rules are what they are. And the only thing I can say is that you have to be creative and justify this 50%. There is very little else that I can add, or perhaps I didn't understand the full extent of the specific question.
Maybe there is here a suggestion that there is other funding available, both at European level, at national level, at regional or local level, that you may be using for complementing the 50% co-funding coming from the European Union budget. And that is indeed acceptable.
Of course, I believe the rules are that these used to be called receipts, and then you have to declare them in your finance table if you are using resources from other funds.
So I take note that we're going to provide you with some wording, some references that will help you understanding how you can use co-funding from other programs or other sources. Yes? Okay. Thank you very much. Gregor Melham, you mentioned interoperability and standardization as important aspects of the developed platforms or solutions, by the way. Are there previous programs or initiatives in this field? You mentioned something like data space for smart communities. Or are there project overarching activities for interoperability or standardization organized/planned?
Yes. Yes, of course. Cristina mentioned that we are working with this idea of the minimum interoperable mechanisms. We are in touch with with several standard development organizations. Cristina is the co-chair of the collaboration working group of ITUT. So we are trying to get involved with these standard bodies, and we are trying to push this idea of the MIMS as like the minimum common denominator, that all these standards that we want these local digital twins and these new technologies of extended reality to be developed share. And another way of getting more information on this is, of course, getting involved with Living in EU.
Well, yes, indeed. This program, Digital Europe, started, as you know, in 2021. There have been a number of projects launched since. We have a programmatic logic to support cities and communities in Europe to embrace the digital transformation, and we wanted to support cities and communities at any level, actually, of digitalization. So we started creating a data space where they could share data, where they could host data, and with which they would be able to interface for any data source that they have. We have also launched a number of procurement actions to support the information, the procurement effort, and also the setting up of digital twins in Europe using open solutions. We are now progressively building a European data space for smart cities and communities through other projects that have been called in the previous program, work program. And now we're progressively establishing AI-based solutions such as the CitiVerse, but there will be many more coming in the future. So it is true that in a way there is an ecosystem of projects that will be supporting these use cases, but it doesn't mean that you cannot come with solutions that they have their own ecosystem of solutions, provided that you comply with our requirements of openness, for instance, and interoperability. So what I suggest is that you have a look at the previous work program 21-22 that contains a description of all these different projects so that you will have all the references and the knowledge on what is the context of this goal. And that will certainly help you to make a good proposal that is mindful of the context. Now, in terms of project overarching activities for interoperability or standardization, we have indeed a supporting action that is helping the so-called Living in EU community to work on technical aspects, to work on financial aspects, to work on legal and procurement elements that support any entity, any city, any community who wants to embrace digitalization, to do it in a way that is somehow cost efficient. But again, you don't have to necessarily be part of it to have a good and, let's say, compelling proposal that will be successfully selected if you meet all the technical requirements and if you propose the deliverables that have been called for in the context. In terms of standardization efforts, there are also other projects now who are going to progressively support standardization efforts of EU experts. There is a call, Miguel, that has been launched now in May from the STEND ICT project. And I think the call will be finished by end of July, approximately. So if you want to complement and support the work you're doing in your area and be able to do some standardization effort, there will be also additional funding available for that purpose, provided that you're successful in this separate call. So I hope that complements your question. The next question, I'm not sure I have a... Nitsa, did I reach out? No. Excuse me, I have
From
skipped.
Tatiana.
Tatiana Isaeva, yes. Good morning, Tatiana. For real-life use cases, do you expect consortiums to include infrastructure providers as critical infrastructure providers? Pepe?
Yes, of bringing in extended reality and the validation in real case scenarios. So it's a question for you to think of the balance of the different activities in your proposal. But of course, yes, they are welcome.
They are welcome doesn't mean we expect them to be present. So it's up to you to define who are the key stakeholders that should be part of the consortium in order to make a, let's say, sensible and well-structured use case.
This is an evaluation criteria, the quality of the consortium. So you have to prepare your proposal and argue why these people are there, what is their role, and if they're needed for the project or not.
Indeed, it depends very much on the scope of the proposal. Thank you. From Denica Stoilova, can you give an example for funding of the remaining 50% for universities? For example, synergies with other EU funding programs. We've covered this question already. I think you said that the synergies are welcomed and definitely possible. Pepe, you want to add something?
No, not much. I mean, in universities, I used to be in university some time ago, not too long ago. And then, yeah, we used to be creative in the use of in-kind contributions.
For instance, but also other sources of funding are available at national level, at local level.
Using of computing resources, whatever, infrastructures. Yeah, I don't want to dwell on more things that would put me in trouble, but because sometimes as I said, double check with your NCP. Don't try to do anything that doesn't look too illegal. Well, sorry.
What do you mean on the edge?
Yes, try to justify
of the records, I hope.
Table and in your proposal, like these are resources that are given to you for a price, okay? And then you are using these resources as your own contribution into the project. That's all.
Yes, well, in any case, I'll suggest you have a look at the accompanying annexes of the work program, which contains all the eligibility requirements for submitting cost and will give you more information, as well as the contract template that is being used for projects, which again develops and details what are considered eligible costs and what are not considered eligible costs, and which will provide you with some perhaps information or complementary information on how you could use in-kind contributions and other sources of funding as a complement to the 50% of co-funding. Okay. Then the next question is from Guillaume Châtelain. You're mentioning reproducing cities' digital twins. Does that mean that all streets/urban elements have to be provided? Should be semi-realistic environments considered? I suppose it could be. Reduced, limited maps, some fantasy elements, building which are not exactly the same as in real life.
Yes, of course. This is a question very much related to the own nature of what a local digital twin is. A local digital twin is a tool, is a digital tool that allows you to double check in principle, from a point of view, first of all, of visualization, what is going on, and in more sophisticated cases, it gives you a tool that is able, through simulation, to foresee what would happen if you do things to the city, okay? So it's like a small crystal ball. And of course, you have to work with the level of detail, with the level of precision that you need to get the output that you desire. And sometimes by complicating things too much in the local digital twin, you don't get the extra behavior and the extra knowledge from the simulation, okay? So there is a balance there.
Indeed, we're not prescriptive of the level of detail that those digital twins should have. We never mentioned that they should reproduce cities. We said that they could address city or communities' physical environments in a way that has to be defined by you and the user needs that you're trying to address through your solutions. Of course, fantasy elements are welcome. This is the CitiVerse, so welcome to fantasy. Basically, I think that your imagination will be the limit in this context. Giulio Clemente is asking us if the call text is mentioned. It is mentioned that this call has to be connected to another call, namely data spaces for smart communities. I think there's a misinterpretation here that we will clarify in a second.
Sorry, I pressed the enter button, but I wanted to ask if, do we know the outcomes of this last call?
Yes, of course. I mean, the 2021 call for the preparatory action for the a data space on smart communities resulted in a project called DS4 SSCC. Its webpage is ds4sscc.eu. I believe we have representatives in the audience of this project, so you can talk to them. Please, people from the project, make yourselves visible.
Yeah,
and then
I'm here. I make part of the governance group, the project,
okay.
and the stakeholders forum.
Then, as I said,
introduce them perhaps, and maybe if you guys would put
I also see Martin there that leads the project also.
So let's put the name of the project, a contact point for the project in the chat box, please, so that everybody can have it, and we have it also for the record. And then Pepe, the second project?
Yes, there was a continuation of this preparatory action called the Data Spaces for Smart Communities Deployment that is currently under preparation, and that will result in 10 to 12 specific pilots, okay, that will add to the data space on smart communities and will validate the proposed blueprint for this data space. And this project, as I said, will probably start September, October this year. We've also called for a procurement action for the local digital twins toolbox. And we are currently we've launched the first call on the technical specifications, and the rest will come through this year, okay? So these are the main three actions. There is also, we've called for a preparatory action also for the digital part of the new European Bauhaus. And we've also called for another support action to support the Living in EU community. Okay, I'm sure that there are people representing these projects in the audience. So make yourselves also visible and accessible to be contacted. Okay,
thank you a lot. Please, if participants to the other calls could write their names in the chat and the name of the projects into the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Giulio. It's a very good suggestion, and we will actually put all this in a one-pager that will be published together with the rest of the call information. As an addition to the existing documentation, I want you to have this information also in a more accessible form. And perhaps it is also an opportunity for me to remind you that, first of all, what's not in the text of the call is not a mandatory requirement. And I need to clarify also that all these projects are work in progress. Some of them have not even started. So it is obviously not possible for you to create any link with a solution or a space or a platform that is not yet publicly available. In other words, it is good if you relate to the work that is being done in the context of the digital program by other projects. It is nice if you start creating relationships and if you start sharing. It would be, of course, desirable that you use the meme framework and that you base your work on open standards as we are promoting them. But by no means will we require something that is not possible. So, of course, you can use data spaces or data sources that you have developed or work with in your context because they're already available, because they're your reality. And it would be nice to see if in your deliverables, in your roadmap, and in your policy recommendations, you suggest how in the future they could be, let's say, interconnected. But if you're not yet part of this ecosystem of projects, it doesn't mean that you're not qualified and fully eligible for proposing a project that is developing the solutions as they're expected and defined in the call. So that is very important to say, because we're very well aware that not everything is available and there are lots of uncertainties in terms of solution standards. Even the blueprint of the data space for smart cities and communities is still in the making, will be validated by the pilot projects that are about to start. So very important that we speak, we work with each other, but of course we do not create unnecessary dependencies and definitely do not propose something that is not feasible at this stage. And I think that the evaluation process will be very mindful of this reality. We will be briefing the independent evaluators, and that will create a fully open, competitive ecosystem for you to make good proposals for this goal. This is just to clarify.
Yeah.
Okay. The question from Joris van der Schrik I make is, just to be sure, do I understand this correctly, that we should focus on using existing data spaces, existing digital twins, and even existing pilots, and mainly target the extended reality expansion? Hence, not create new data spaces or new digital twins, mainly adapt existing ones. Well, I think I have sort of addressed already this question, but I would like to expand it further. No, we don't want you to necessarily use existing digital twins. If you have your own, it's okay, let's say, to work on data spaces that are, let's say, already available. But it is very important that you propose a way to join the existing work, because in the end, what we want is European platforms that are interoperable, that work together, and that can resist, let's say, to put it like this, the solutions that will be going against that trend. We don't want to have vendor solutions that are not interoperable, of course. That's just to be totally clear.
Yeah.
Pepe.
Nothing to add. Yeah. Of course, you can build on existing local digital twins, but of course, if you bring new ones, so much the better. If you bring new data sets that would complement the data space for smart communities, please contact the data space and try to link all this data. Huh?
Yeah, and perhaps let's also remind everyone that the way we have defined a European data space for smart cities and communities is also a very heterogeneous ecosystem where data can be flowing freely, but it's certainly not a central platform that is hosting any generic solution to manipulate data. We're using open standards, but we're also very, let's say, mindful of the necessity to have diversity and to maintain this diversity. So that is, I hope, to cover the question from Joris. The next one in line is from Clara Pezuela, which is the expected relationship between the pilots from the deployment smart cities and communities project, smart and sustainable, let me underline sustainable project, and these CitiVerse pilots. Could be an evolution from them, but focused on virtual reality / augmented reality, or should it be different cities applying?
Both. Both. You can have a nice local digital twin, and then you can add the virtual reality or the augmented reality slant to it, or you can start with a new local digital twin. It's both.
In any case, the pilots have again not yet started delivering anything, so we will definitely not take this as a condition or as a must. It is not required. Again, let's be very strict on this. What's in the call is important, and the call said it would be nice if you use existing digital twins, but you can come with your own infrastructure solution. And we do not mention anything regarding the types of cities applying.
No.
This is totally open and up to you to decide with which cities or communities you would like to work. From Giulio Clemente in the
Sorry,
context-
you can skip this question same as
Yes,
before
we've
because
answered,
I doubled I doubled it. Sorry.
No problem, thank you. From Patrick Bourdeau, what about associations' involvement in the metaverse field? Question as representative of EuroXR. We are a non-profit organization. We cannot provide 50% of the cost.
I'm afraid that the rules are, fortunately or unfortunately, what the rules are. I mean, we haven't taken this into account.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I hope that the members of your association are also working in different settings, like private and public organizations, where they can find alternative means of co-funding, indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pilar Orero. I have another question. My concrete question was, can we make a proposal on accessibility, sustainability, policies, or standards? Or all these should be included in each proposal? I think Pepe's reply was clear. The budget is what it is.
As I said, you can bring a mixture of all these properties. Okay, it would be nice if you could address all of them, but it's not a fulfillment criteria. You can concentrate your strengths on a certain area, and that's it. But of course, it would be nice if you could address all these issues.
As Pepe said earlier on, indeed, there are a number of criteria that are used by evaluators to evaluate the quality of a proposal, and there is also a weight given to each of those criteria. So definitely technical excellence is among the most important elements. And we hope that the industry will partner with cities, communities, users, or other relevant organization or stakeholders who can help them identify what are the policy challenges or the, let's say, necessary building blocks that need to be analyzed or improved in this context in order to provide with a more complete proposal. But as Pepe said, this is part of the evaluation, of course, so you need to come with what you can offer in terms of competency. We have another question from Leif Opperman about being creative with 50% rule. Can we provide existing investments as in-kind? For example, 5G campus networks or building of full-scale digital building models. Pepe?
Of course, provided that you can justify the use, the percentage of the use, and you can have a business model that justifies the amount of money that you're claiming as in kind, of course. If these resources are devoted to your project or to, in principle, to your proposal, yes.
Thank you, Pepe. And thank you, Mariana, for providing us with the link to the livingin.eu website that provides you with all the different information we gave you before, supported by a CSA, funded by the Work Program 21-22. From Team Deussen to everyone. In terms of deployment, we are currently deploying an augmented reality tourism project and a digital twin as part of a pilot Berlin Smart City initiative. Since the start point of the project is 2024, could we apply with a rollout of these projects in other cities or city development projects in Berlin?
It's entirely up to you. I mean, it looks relevant, but of course you have to be careful with the double funding issue. I mean, please be very clear in your project which work you want to do with the proposed, with your proposed project here and with the other projects. But in principle, it looks relevant. Yes, of course. This is what we're looking for.
Yeah. From Michael Mulking. Good morning, Michael. Do you want to say anything more about the work on CitiVerse standards? How could people get involved in this? How might joining the work on standards benefit people putting together proposals for this goal? Well, that would, I think, indeed require a full session on what is our approach towards standards. Perhaps in a nutshell, what we could say is there will be different events coming in the next months where we will be discussing and working with anyone interested in addressing pre-standardization issues. We're mapping a number of building blocks and standards, relevant standards for those building blocks of what we think it could be, let's say a conceptual framework for CitiVerse. We do this in different contexts. The Living in EU technical subgroup will be working on this. You're welcome to join. There will be a dedicated working session on pre-standardization roadmap for the CitiVerse on the 1st of June. Am I right, Miguel? Registration is open. We will now put the link on the chat box for you to join if you're interested. There is also public discussion organized in the frame under the umbrella of the ITU focus group on the metaverse, discussing also pre-standardization issues for the CitiVerse. We will put again a link in the chat box for you to join the session. There is one tomorrow and there will be another one in June. So we have a number of ongoing conversations, but also there is an open group available online for anybody who is working in those different technologies to contribute, to propose their views on what we need to do at European level in order to quickly get into an open, interoperable ecosystem of solutions that would support the scaling up of CitiVerse in Europe. Everybody is welcome to join. As I said, you only need to register to those different events. And I think that the work that we will be jointly doing together will benefit EU industry, but of course, users in becoming the first on this market, as we think that it's very likely that once most of EU cities and local communities in Europe will be adopting digital twins, which seems to be the trend that we're observing, that they will become such a commodity that adding extended reality solutions and creating immersive experiences for citizens in Europe will become more and more available and, let's say, the norm for providing added value services in the future. Okay, so more information again available on the Living in EU website, on our information page for this call, and will be also published in the future. Thank you, Martin, for sharing the links. From Ali Ben Brahim, hello from Tunisia. Who are the associate countries? Is this a Horizon Europe call?
No, it's a digital call, a dev call. Yeah, and I don't think that Tunisia is associated.
So Digital Europe program is a different funding program from Horizon Europe, which is a research program. We're deploying solutions here, and they require to meet a number of eligibility requirements. Those requirements are detailed in the annex of the call text, and I invite you to have a look at the text to make sure that you're indeed eligible to apply for this call. So Ali, yes, you're right, this is a dev call. From Lodewijk Noordzee. Is simple middleware considered to be among the existing infrastructure that should be leveraged in scope of this goal?
Yes, of course, but it very much depends on the development of simple. I don't think it's very well developed so far, but of course, if you can argue in your proposal that you are leveraging or helping them to develop the simple middleware, of course, is something that you can claim as part of the work, although it shouldn't be a focal or a structural issue in your proposal. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin Brinskov, for sharing the link to the EU Data Space for Smart Communities project. And Martin Brinskov is also the leader of the technical subgroup of the Living in EU community. So write his name if you want to reach out to him. Thank you also, Mariana, for sharing the reference of the ITU focus group, where every participant can register, it's open, and join the discussions on the CitiVerse. From Team Mittelstadt, do you have an idea how many projects should be financed? Is there a minimum for project costs? As a maximum, I had understood 2 to 5 million euros.
No, 2 to 5 million euros is an indicative figure, but then you can argue whatever you want between 1 or 0 and 50 million euros. Okay? It depends on the complexity of your project. The only thing we said is that we would like to have several projects to have healthy competition. Okay?
And indeed, evaluators will take the indications of the call text as, let's say, an indication of what is considered relevant. However, less or more than this average indicative budget will be also accepted and be considered, provided that it is commensurate with the scope and breadth of the project itself. Thank you. Gabriele Quattrocchi, ICT standardization specialist, can apply up until the 10th of July 2023 to the first open call under the standict.eu 2026, I suppose it's 2023 call. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Gabriele. It means that everybody who wants to work in the area of standardization and who wants to get some support, it's a token for the efforts that you will be pursuing in this area, is welcome to try their chance in this standict.eu poll that is now open. From Michael Mulking, if people want to find out more about the memes and their relevance to the CitiVerse, please get in touch with him. From Philip Sayek, a verse has 4 layers that need to be portable and interoperable horizontally within a same call consortium and associated use case and across different calls. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole question. A, it sounds like there is an emphasis on the scope on the citizen experience,
Yeah.
i.e. the interface more than the rest. Is that a correct understanding? If not, where does the EU put the emphasis? I think perhaps to clarify that we have put the emphasis on the fact that we want those projects to be looking at the user centricity dimension, okay? But it doesn't mean that we're not contemplating all the stack of technologies and solutions that are needed to provide a good CitiVerse solution. Pepe.
Yes, precisely. It's one of the objectives to make these services or these technologies in their implementation and validation through use cases relevant, involving the citizen. So we want both.
And question B, will the EU evaluate the horizontal portability and interoperability between the different calls? And if so, are there any specific preferred technological guidelines?
No preferred technical and technological guidelines. I mean, I don't know exactly what you mean by the horizontal portability between the different calls.
So I think perhaps we could ask Philippe Sayek himself, just to clarify, we're not evaluating its, well, we will be supported by an independent panel of experts to evaluate these proposals, first. Secondly, There will be no cross-evaluation of projects under this goal with respect to other projects in previous goals. This is not contemplated. However, we've mentioned already several times that it is good to reference and make sure that you're mindful of the developments of the digital program in previous goals, as to increase interoperability and scale up the investments that we have already made in the previous program.
Yes, nothing to add. Yeah.
Okay. From Walter Ferreira. I'm part of the team within the S4SEC governance group under the coordination of your cities and the stakeholders forum under the coordination.
It was not a question, it was just to leave the contact in case.
Thank you very much, Walter. Thank you, Martin, for your comment. Thank you, Gabriela, for the reference of the Leaving EU. Appreciate it. From Harman. After over a year of our Metaverse and the City program, it's wonderful to see that its focus finds more and more fertile ground. Much looking forward to seeing what the CitiVerse program will bring. Thank you. I guess there was not a question, so thank you for the references. From Hugo TG. Hugo, looks like you're also just giving your references, so I'm going to skip yours. From Gregor Melman. It looks like you're also providing your references. No, I see a question here. You're highly interested in providing your technologically ready and market-proven ecosystem platform. What is your recommendation to rapidly find promising application and research partners, cities, and other SMEs, and how to create a network from this point? First of all, you're already welcome. You've done the good thing. You've joined the information day. Now everybody knows you. This information session is recorded. People will be able to get back to your references. So that's a first good step. Other ideas, Pepe?
Nothing else to add. No. I see that some of you now have started showing your interests and your skills, which is a good thing, but we need to leave some time also for the 6 guys that sent a short presentation. So they should introduce themselves. But I believe that we are now getting into the networking part.
I'm scrolling down and I see that indeed, I think it's a good way to move now to the next point on the agenda. In any case, while we're putting the slides on, just to remind you that we felt that it was necessary indeed to give you a platform to exchange. So our suggestion will be to organize another session like this one, where we will be focusing mostly on network opportunities. So we're now investigating what would be the most suitable platform. If you have ideas, by the way, we're now looking at virtual worlds, to be totally open with you, to see how we could very easily create an event online where everybody will be able to join, and we will be happy to organize this event in the coming weeks and give you this opportunity to meet, network, make proposals, basically to support you in whichever way you need, as we are now moving of the limits of this type of settings. So if you have suggestions, feel free to put them in the chat. And now let's move to the next point on the agenda, where we will be hearing from you.
But please keep on contributing to the chat and putting your expressions of interest. We'll open the floor now. If I can manage to open my files now, I can't. Sorry, I have some connection problems.
In the meantime, I'm also calling the organizers of the sessions, like the technical subgroup meeting, the stakeholders forum, the next conference on at the Urban Summit, but also any other relevant event, to put the date, the information, registration links in the chats for the sake of transparency and openness with the call participants. And we will be, of course, providing you with all these details in our page. And perhaps we could have a follow-up communication with all the registered participants, summarizing all the information, providing the slides, and giving you all the links and references. Yes?
There were 6 people that sent the slides through the registration webpage. Perhaps the easiest way, because I don't have a quick access to these presentations now here, is for Mariana to give you the host ID, and then you can share your slides, okay? There were 6 of you, so if we give you, each one of you 2-3 minutes each.
If you just speak, and then I could see who you are and give you the access.
Who's the first?
I don't know. I mean,
En la lista.
Who would
estoy
like?
intentando acceder a la lista.
It's a bit slow.
Let's say who would like to be first. Like this, we can. Any volunteers?
Yeah, we have a network issue, so we cannot look at the list of registered speakers. So my suggestion is that Pilar,
Liana
who
wants
is
to-
volunteering, goes first, and then we will take the next one. Sorry, Pilar Orero from Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona.
Yeah.
Please take the floor.
Can I share the screen?
Please do. Yeah.
Well, share. There we go. Can you see it?
Yes, Pilar, it's coming.
Can you see my whole screen or just the... There you are.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Fantastic. What I want to present is what we're doing with sustainability, accessibility, and inclusion in the metaverse, both as a research group at Universitat Autónoma in Barcelona and also at the metaverse focus group in ITU. So that's what I'm going to present. So as a research group, basically I'm selling my book now. We have got a great experience in EU projects. We are from the social sciences and humanities section. We are not technology group. And we have just basically specialized in inclusion, accessibility, sustainability. We always, in any project that we go, we always take care of user requirements where users are vulnerable groups. And that is people with disabilities, is the aged, is people who are not residing where they are from. So it is this sort of large community of Europeans who are emigrated in some way. And we also test in real conditions. We are very strong in the standardization, SENS, ENELEC, ETSI, and of course we are chairing now a group at the ITU UN focus group. And we are very strong as well in dissemination in UN, basically UN events like WSIS or IGF 2023 or things like that. And we are also very good at knowledge transfer. We have a massive network for that. So what I would like to do, and I think Cristina has also said many times in this meeting, is that we would like to invite anyone to join us in the UN ITU focus group, and particularly in the work group 8, which I co-chair with Egypt. This work group is to do with sustainability, with accessibility, and with digital inclusion. Please join us. We need more people there to hear more voices and more experiences. And we are doing some documents, and the last one is use cases. And I think, again, it would be fantastic to have to take the opportunity of this call and this experience to take the use cases to feed them into the ITU. Why do I think that? Because I think Europe is fantastic for many issues. For example, a very concrete one, languages. We have many hundreds of languages in Europe, and we have 3 writing style. We have Latin, but we also have Greek, and we have Cyrillic. And these, plus all the sign languages. So to me, multimodality is very important. The users that we're going to deal with are lots of different diversity, and we take care of dissemination and ethics as well, and that is very fast. So basically, I am very open to collaboration, and that's what I specialized in. Thank you.
Thank you, Pilar. The next in line is Leif Opperman. Leif, your 2 minutes are starting now. Thank you.
Okay.
Feel free to share.
Yes, thank you. So I'm just clicking my buttons and I should be online any second.
No pressure.
Okay. So I took the liberty to make it 2 slides as well. Right. I'm Leif Opperman from Fraunhofer KIT in Germany. And I'd like to pitch my interest here and our competence. So we are the former German National Research Center. We are human-centered IT developers. For more than 50 years, we've got a history of working with mixed reality, or now called XR, for 25 years, and more than 10 years with interactive building information modeling visualizations. We have a fully operational digital twin of our campus, which has production quality, hence the earlier question, and thanks for the answer. You can see some screenshots down here, and which we already use for interactive services on the construction site, for example. And we have a working indoor and outdoor 5G network that we funded for ourselves. And yeah, for better or for worse, I became the Fraunhofer Metaverse expert in the last year. So I've been on all kinds of activities and events, and also on a ministry level in Germany with the digital and transport and the economy and climate, and also the foreign ministry. So please do get in touch if you think the competences are relevant for you. So I'm at fitfraunhofer.de/mark. We think the opportunity is in the regional development. I think some other mic is open. Muriel, perhaps. We think there's a big structural change going on in our area and everywhere in Europe, which demands for digital support. You know, we are, for example, the former capital area here, and we are also a former coal mining area, and that implies a lot of change that's needed. We will need to change thousands of jobs. We are already in process of doing that, and we'll try to improve on that. We see a huge potential by using mobile-first technology, digital services, and digital twins. And we see the urge of municipalities needing to transform. And we actually have good context to different municipalities in our area.
Thank you, Leif. I am afraid I will have to cut you, but we need to give 2-3 minutes maximum to each participant.
Fine. So metaverse, user
have...
interface, and data space. I'm out.
Yeah.
If you want to get in touch, be welcome. Thank you.
Don't hesitate. Thank you very much. The next in line is Dieter Uckelman. Dieter, could you please start sharing and present your slides? You have maximum 3 minutes.
Okay, so hello and welcome everyone. My name is Dieter Uckelmann from HFT Stuttgart. I'm a professor for information logistics, and I just want to shortly introduce the project iCity to you, which is running for 8 years, and we're in the second phase now. And you see the 4 sub-projects we have here. One focused on mobility, street moves for iCity. Another one focused on diagnostics for categorization and optimization of building structures and heat networks. Then we have the sensor and simulation for energy and efficiency and the environment, SenseIn for iCity. And last not least, the universal digital twin for iCity, UDIGIT for iCity, which I think could be a good basis to build a metaverse platform on top of it. So we have 4 different topics here. The first one is looking at standards for urban digital twins, for example, OGC and RESTful APIs in this context. And the second one focused on public buildings and infrastructures for smart cities, where we cooperate with cities such as Ludwigsburg and Solingen. And the third one, a 5G pilot, where we're also looking into AR applications and combinations for smart city usage. So I think this could be a good basis for collaboration and looking forward for any party interested. The next slide basically is just the contact dates. But
Mr. Uckelman, if you don't mind, could you please put your slide on presentation mode so that people can read the slide, because they are only, you know, on reading mode, not on presentation mode.
Okay, so let me just check once more.
You need to switch your presentation setting, actually.
Now, I hope it's...
Thank you very much. Much better. And now we have your contact details.
Yeah, okay, now I switched it again. I'm sorry, but just one more try. So here are the contact details if you have any questions. Okay?
Yeah. In any case, the slides will be shared in the news item webpage. Okay.
Excellent. Thank
Shortly
you.
after the meeting.
Thank you very much, Professor. The next one in line is Tejas Bhagat.
Yes.
Tejas, your
Yes,
3
I'm
minutes are
just
starting
sharing
now.
my slide. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope this is visible.
We're seeing you at the moment.
Is my slide visible to all?
Not yet.
Is it now?
Not yet.
Oh,
Now it's coming. Please put the slides on presentation mode.
yeah. I hope it is.
Excellent. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm Tejas. I'm basically representing Blockchain 5.0, an SME located in Estonia with specialization in cybersecurity, blockchain, and artificial intelligence. So we are active in Horizon Europe with over 28 projects, out of which 4 are funded. And I am here to talk about this Casey, the AI-generated humanoid citizen for Metaverse. I mean, we as BC5 believe that humanoid characters have a role to play in the next Metaverse revolution. So Casey, which is an acronym for Collective Artificial Superintelligence, is basically a humanoid being developed in several European projects to perform following functions. The first one is to interact with the live audience, hold live AMAs, anchor webinars and workshops, and participates on debates. And anything that involves human participation can be replaced with the humanoid participation in Metaverse. So we have this several Casey projects under development at this point in time. We recently submitted for a EU grant just last month, which involved Industry 5.0 and VR. So KC XR Consortium, which I was talking about, is developing it as an influencer and a receptionist. And KC.live as a PC host come research scientist is already live on the website given here, where you can see as a demo. And one other consortium, RX for Life, is developing KC as a paramedic first responder. And there are multiple use cases that we are going to propose in our next Horizon Europe calls. And on top of that, Casey is going to be a brand ambassador of one of the crowdfunding campaign that we are launching with one of our associated company. So Casey is going to take that lead also. So our intent here is to put this humanoid model at the front face of the every metaverse project activity that this partner will be carrying out. So we are open for any such collaboration. So just contact us if you need any more information on this, or you want this Casey model to be associated in your project. The details are given in the slide. You can email or contact us directly from our website. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tejas. And don't hesitate to put your contact details in the chat box as well.
Great,
I don't
thanks.
have anybody next. Maybe Jules, do you have a hand raised? What?
I see here in our list, Julie Di Clemente wanted to present the slides.
Yes. Can you see me? And I'll try to share my slides. Okay.
Please go ahead. Your 2 minutes start now.
Okay. Can you see? Okay. Sorry, there is some. Can you see the
Yes, we
slides?
can. Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to put them in presentation mode.
Perfect.
Oh, sorry, I can't see them. Sorry. There are some problems. Sorry, I can't see the slides.
Alt tab, and then you will, if you
Sorry.
use Windows.
Yes, sorry, wait just 1 second.
It's okay. No stress, no problem.
Sorry.
So go at the bottom of the page.
Yes,
where
but
you can
I
magnify.
don't see. Okay, stop sharing. Okay, so wait just 1 second. Okay, I could be able to share this. Share. Okay, you should see my slides.
Yes, no problem. Go ahead. We will
Okay,
definitely
okay.
share the slides later on.
Okay, so the photo you see in this slide has been extracted from a proof of concept based on the decentralized metaverse, which we have handled with an online voting functionality. Now voters can take part to poll sessions and express their votes about whatever kind of topic. Votes can be both recorded votes or secret votes, since two different voting manners are allowed. At the core of the system, there is a wise combination of advanced cryptographic techniques and blockchain, namely Ethereum mainnet, which guarantee anonymity and integrity of the voters' choices. Currently, this proof of concept has a TRL equals to 5, but we're working to increase it up to 9. Our solution, I would like to stress that our solution is an inclusive one, since it allows people with low motility to cast a vote from home without the need to leave their houses. We think that in the metaverse, people should be able to express their opinions and ideas in a safe and privacy-preserving environment. So if the metaverse has to be a cityverse, so a digital twin of a city, the rights of the individual have to be protected. As a company that works in digital identity, we are expanding our footprint in these new worlds. As an example, in local energy community, people could decide on new investments and expanding the network. Do I have time to say a bit about our company?
You have 30 seconds left.
Oh, okay, so we're part of Bit4ID, which is an acronym from Best Information Technology for Identification, and we are very active in, as you can see in the bottom of the slide, with many standardization organizations such as Sensenelec, ISO, ETSI, ITU, and EXO. So that's what I wanted to say, and feel free to email me at the email address you can see up here in the slide. So that's all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Mariana, do we have a...
I see we received 2 more presentations, but I can't find the names here in the chat. I don't know if any of you is present. We have Gaetano Volpe and Jose Aznar. Okay.
Okay. Now we have the option in the remaining of the time for you to keep on networking and talking to each other. Please feel free to add things to the chat. We'll keep the session open until when? Can we keep the session open?
12? Or
12?
we can try to keep it a bit longer.
12:10, 12:15, okay?
Okay, so how it will work, we will basically leave this space open for you to gently exchange or post your comments, questions, suggestions, contact references, and make sure that in any case, you come back to the call page where we will be, as I said, documenting a number of references, such as the link to the annexes of the poll text, where you will find all the eligibility requirements, a one-pager with references to all the projects that are part of the work program for smart, sustainable cities and communities, additional information, if relevant, regarding co-financing possibilities, and indeed any other interesting information, including the slides of this session, that you may want to get. In any case, as you know, there is a FAQ section still available online where you are able to put your remaining questions and be tuned. As I said, stay tuned, because we are looking at another information session in the coming weeks, so information will come. We hope that you agree that we will use your registration to send you information about this next session. And in any case, you can contact also your NCP for additional information. With this, I give Pepe the floor to conclude on the session, key elements. And as I said, the space is open to you. The chat box will remain available. We will switch off our cameras. We don't need to be involved, but feel free to use that space for conversations and networking purposes. Pepe, over to you for the conclusion.
Yes, nothing much more to add. Really think that you have until the 26th of September. So liaise with the people you think it's interesting and start preparing your proposals. The secret of a good proposal is doing a lot of work and discussions beforehand and plan things properly. So good luck. And as I said, we expect a number of projects to launch a few projects by April next year. And it only remains to wish you good luck.
Thank you, everyone, and good luck with your preparations.